we do want to welcome Florida State offensive coordinator James Coley to the press conference today. And, Coach, we welcome you here and welcome you to South Florida. You all have been here for a few days now. How have preparations for the Discover Orange Bowl gone so far?
Good. You know, yesterday was our first day. Our guys were really sharp. They're focused. We had a great week of preparation in Tallahassee. But actually, yesterday was our best day. You know, sometimes when you give these guys a couple of days off, when you install new stuff, it sets in. And, you know, I thought EJ was really sharp. I thought our receivers were on cue. The timing was actually better. So being our first day, it's interesting to see today. Let's see how they respond. And we were, you know, we got out of the staff meeting right afterwards, and we were watching the entire practice, and everybody was pretty pleased with how our players played.
Great. We'll go ahead and start with to your left in the front row.
Good morning.
Times. EJ's season, we learned recently, you know, has been involving his mother's health issue as well, and him having to play through that adversity. And what have you seen in the growth of him this year against that backdrop, and also what should his legacy be at Florida State?
You know, yeah, it's been a tough year for him. You know, whenever you have someone dear to you, you know, whenever you see them, you know, struggling with an illness, especially at a young age, it's tough. But the great thing about this job is you see these freshmen, and then by their fifth year, you see them come in as, you know, young pups, and then you kind of see them, you know, seasoned. You know what I mean? So not just as players, but also as individuals. So you saw him take that with stride, and he's learning to become, you know, a professional at this. And you know, it's demanding. You know, it really is. You know, some guys, they say these kids go to school for free. It ain't free, not at all. You know, they work. And you know, when you have those times where, you know, you're struggling, you know, back at home, you know, it's tough. But he persevered through it. His legacy, you know, he's our top percentage quarterback in the history of Florida State. You know, he's a winner. He redshirted his freshman year. We've called upon him every year because of injuries, and he's come in and saved his first season as a redshirt freshman, saved our season by getting us into a bowl game. You know, he's a competitor. You know, he's a fighter. You know, you watch him play, and the guys who played with him will tell you, you know, best, you know, ask them next door. You know, they love that guy. You know, they'll run through the wall for him. So.
Next question. We'll go right down here in front, right in the center.
Coach, Ira Schofeld, Tallahassee Democrat. Northern Illinois' defense, Coach Fisher talked about them being very sound. For those of us who haven't seen them, can you talk about what they do and the challenges they present?
Yeah, they're a 4-3 defense. They're well coached. They have some older players who play extremely hard. As a group, they play extremely hard. This is probably the hardest playing with regards to morale, rally to the ball group that we've seen. One of the top that we've seen this year. And obviously their success getting into this game is a product of it. They're a bunch of guys who believe in what they're doing, you know. So that's our challenge. You know, they're going to have conviction on what they do, you know, and that's what we're pushing with our guys, conviction in what we do, and let's let it meet on the field, you know. But you know, you have certain players that are extremely they're good. They're going to play in the next level off of their defense. Number 90 defensive end, you know, the 93 defensive tackle. Those guys are real good players. You know, the middle linebacker is a tough kid from Miami, Victor, and I think he went to Christopher Columbus. You know, hard-nosed kids. They have the right 11 playing. You know, So that's what we're facing. We're facing a team that's going to come out there and they're gonna be willing to bloody their noses and get after you, and play all 60 minutes. So
We'll go here to your right in the second row. That's you.
Hey, James, Tom D'Angelo,
Yeah.
Palm Beach Post. Could you talk about the development of Nick O'Leary and one, his blocking, and
Right.
two, yesterday Jimbo said he thought he'd probably catch 30, 35 balls this year. He has, I think, 19. Just what has been the reason why maybe he didn't have those numbers?
Development has been very pleased with it. He's a guy who's 235 pounds, 6'4", 235. He's playing at the end of the line of scrimmage in a pro-style offense. And he, week to week, goes against some defensive ends that are 280, 275, and he's giving up some size. And he's really bought into, being a technician, because he has to, because he's giving up sometimes length and size. And he's bought into the fact of sacrificing in particular plays where he knows that he's outsized and outstrength. He's giving up a lot of numbers physically, and I'm from springtime when you play against our defensive ends, Bjoern, Werner, and then Brandon Jenkins before he got hurt. You saw him get better, and then in the summer you saw him battling, which was a good sign because when you go against our defense, it can be rough, So, as far as him developing his full game, I thought he's done a great job this year. Now, 19 catches, there were certain games we thought he can get more, and the ball just didn't go that way because of coverages. And there are certainly plays called for him to get, one-on-one matchups, and we ended up scoring touchdowns, off of those plays because the safety would jump on the tight end. Like against Duke, we had a couple post routes, and actually we were trying to work get on their middle linebacker and work option routes because we thought that would be a good matchup. And the safety was buzzing down and doubling Nick, helping out the Mike linebacker, and then we were hitting Rashad and Rodney over the top with post routes. So, it's going to go that way sometimes, but we expect him. He had 11 last year. He has 19 this year, including a 2-point play. So let's see how he finishes up the bowl game, and then next year, hopefully that'll double as well.
We're going to go one seat behind the last question.
Hey, Coach, Coley Harvey from the Orlando
Coley,
Sentinel.
what's up, man?
How you doing, Coach? Of course, you kind of had a big hand in the recruitment of Bjoern Werner. You're just talking about Bjoern. First of all, what was it about him that stuck out to you when you first started recruiting him? And then also, when you guys realized he could play defense, could you have foreseen the type of year and a couple of years that he's had?
We went up there. It's funny. I went up there, and we definitely wanted to offer him as an offensive player. And we were thinking more in the lines of tight end or center, okay? And when we went up there, that didn't go over well. I said, I gave him the positions in his face. Everything was just like total depression, you know what I mean? He walked away, and I was like, wow. But the coach pulled me to the side, and he said, you know what, Coach? You need to watch this kid play basketball. He's just learned how to play basketball, but you get to see him move around. It was probably about 15 degrees outside. They had an indoor gym. I was up in Connecticut, up in the mountains. I'm from Miami, so I was definitely not prepared. I was in that gym. I was dying to get to that car. But I went in there, and I just watched him play. And you can see his athleticism, running up and down the court, jumping. He wasn't an interior guy. You saw his skill set. He was fouling everybody. They stood no chance. But we pulled out the game film again, and then I kind of put two and two together. We're like, well, they're asking him to do this. I've seen him do that. And then I called Jimbo, and told him, I said, this kid is he's a big athlete. you know, and he watched the film again, and at the end of the basket, after they showered and all that, we offered him as a defensive end. So it went from extremes there. You know, it went from us going in there kind of thinking, you know, maybe this guy, because Will Ty was there as a tight end, maybe this guy's a center tight end type of guy, big body, you know, and it turned out that, you know, no, he was a lot, you know, his athleticism, he can play in the perimeter, he come off the edge. So it doesn't surprise me. He came down here as a freshman, and you know, we were telling him, you got to get used to the humidity, get used to the heat, and you know, he worked out on his own the first several days to get used to this humidity in Tallahassee, you know, and it was, you know, by the time they were doing 110s as a group, their sprints in the summer, you know, he was one of the leaders as a freshman, you know, he was telling guys, get up, you know, and the strength coaches were all, from his first day, that's been around him just raves about him, whether it's academics or the strength staff or his position coach. So it was no shocker. I mean, and you know what? Certain guys, one thing you always question sometimes when guys don't grow up around this game is, do they have the instincts to play, especially on defense? You know, he has it. He understands the game. You know, sometimes he probably understands it better than some of the guys who grew up here and has been around the game their whole lives. I mean, he studied it. So, but very proud of him.
All right, we are going to open up the room directly behind you all for the players. We're going to keep Coach up here for a few minutes as well. So if anyone wants to make your way in there. As you all make your way out of the room, know that FSU's next media availability after this press conference is at their practice. It's at Nova Southeast University at 11:35. Photo and video the first 15 minutes, and then interviews at 1:30. So we will open it up, or continue on, Coach, down here to the right.
Coach, Susan Miller-Degnan from the Miami Herald.
Okay.
I know you grew up in Miami, and I believe near the Orange Bowl, the
Yep.
old Orange Bowl. Can you talk about some memories of the Orange Bowl, and you know, how much you went there growing up, and what it's like without it there, and also the difference in, you know, in playing at Sun Life?
Yeah, you know, I grew up on Northwest 4th Street and 18th Avenue, about 2 blocks from the Orange Bowl. And the Orange Bowl was, as you know, as kids in that community, that was our playground. And hide and seek, and you know, running onto the field and throwing the football, getting chased by the security guards, you know, getting out of there, and parking cars. If you might have parked in my house if you went to one of the games. But that was always the bright side of a working class neighborhood, was the games on Saturdays, the games on Sundays when the Dolphins were there. You know, that I always thought it lifted up the community. You know, as kids, you go outside, you see the Goodyear blimp, you know, that was like, you know, a big deal, you know. So, yeah, you know, it's weird because I recruit Miami. It's weird driving down 17th Avenue and not seeing the OB, you know. That's a nice baseball stadium, nice park, but you miss it, you know. You miss seeing that stadium. We played there in high school. That was our home games, but yeah, it's a nice deal.
All right, we're actually going to go on your right in the inside aisle.
Hey, Heather Dinich with ESPN.com. Don't usually get a chance to talk to you,
I
so
know it.
I wanted to ask you about the arrangement that you guys have with the staff. I don't think you're the only offensive coordinator who doesn't call the plays.
Right.
I don't even know if I have that right. Virginia Tech does it too. Okay. How has that arrangement worked out for you?
The
fact that you're offensive coordinator, but you don't call the plays, if
it-
that's correct.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. How has that worked out for you as an offensive coordinator? Is that okay with you?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, coach he's a head coach. He's called plays for a long time. You know, he's very successful. He knows a lot. You know, he walks into meetings and he'll bring up stuff that, you know, maybe he hasn't done in a while, or stuff people are doing now. He's done it before, and you know, it's an ongoing. We're all learning around him. But, you know, the way it works, I guess is what you're asking, how's it work for us? You know, he's got a lot of head coaching duties that he does, and we, especially myself, you know, I try to get all the information to him, so when he walks into these meetings, it's very productive. We're not sitting around there. There's not a lot of wasting time. He's got, his questions get answered right away with regards to schemes and how, you know, what our opponent's doing. And then, you know, during the week, you know, I script the practice to the things he wants to see, and I kind of organize the week out for him, and so that on Saturdays, you know, he's ready to go. So it's worked out. It's worked out well. It's worked out well.
We're going to say just to your left on the second row in the aisle.
Coach Mike Graham, Scripps Newspapers. Could you talk a little bit about the development of Stork at center, and how he's come on to be a second team All-ACC, and what Lonnie Pryor brings to your backfield?
Got you. You know, Brian Stork was a kid that I recruited originally as a tight end, maybe an offensive lineman. And he was light when he came on his official visit. He was probably around 235 pounds. And he knew he would have to play offensive line just because of the guys we had at the tight end position. And Coach Trickett really thought he can be a good guard center type of guy if he can gain the weight, and he did. You know, he's tough. We call him Redbeard. He's got this beard, and it's red, and he's kind of looks like a pirate. And he barks, and he's a team guy. They all follow him, the offensive line. What a great story his story is, you know, with his father passing and him kind of he raised himself up the ending of his senior year, and, you know, coming to Florida State, having to get bigger and stronger, and then, you know, he's been a 3-year starter for us. So, you know, he's the guy you want at center. You know, he's a guy that'll lay it all on the line and give all he has. So, you know, you can't ask for anything more from him. Athletically, he's a tight end, skill set wise, playing center. So he's quick, strong. He's got these big hands. And when he locks up on guys, that's about it. You know, he does a good job torquing guys. And you know, Brian's just been one of our backbones, you know, with our big guys. You know, Lonnie Pryor, you know, the mayor of Okeechobee. He's awesome. As a football player, very unselfish. Makes plays in games when you need plays. Lonnie's the guy who's give me the ball, you know, and sure enough, he'll run somebody over and get a first down, or, you know, catch a ball from the backfield and change field positions. Outside of the game, he's unbelievable. You know, he's a type of guy that you know, you want your son to have a locker next to. You know, he's a team player. He's a big community guy. He loves Florida. Both those guys, you know, and in this recruiting process, when you recruit guys, you know, something that always stands out, you know, there's guys who would like to play for Florida State, and there's guys that would die to play for Florida State. And both those guys loved Florida State. That's their school. So when we played games, when we play rivalry games and stuff like that, it means a lot to them, you know, and that's infectious to the rest of the guys. You know, they see how much passion they have in those games, and they know what's on the line because they know those guys do things right, you know. So those are two big leaders for us, both those guys.
We'll go on your right, 4 rows back.
James, Pete Thamel from Sports Illustrated. I'm just curious if you can talk a little bit about the staff turnover and how you guys have juggled sort of losing assistants and gaining assistants, and just kind of what practice is like. I know the GAs have been more involved. I'm wondering if you can kind of walk me through that and where you are right now.
Yeah, you know, recruiting, it's crazy, you know, because you lose 3 guys, and you got to take up, you know, their areas in recruiting. And those guys did a great job where, you know, it was pretty easy to pick up. So you kind of, you do double duty. You know, you have your area and you have somebody else's area. You know, you're double the phone calls at night, you know. But emails and Facebook and all that stuff, it's extra. But those guys did a great job where, you know, it was easy to come in and you had all the information already provided on the prospects, and you knew who you were recruiting. It wasn't someone that they only spoke with. You know, the way Coach Fisher sets this up, it's area recruiting, but a lot of people are involved in the recruiting process. So that's been the biggest thing. Now on our side of the ball, Eddie Grant's still here, you know. So Coach G, he's still at practice, and we're not missing anything. He's doing special teams and all that. And on the other side of the ball, you have you know, Coach Elliott has kind of stepped in for, you know, Coach Stoops, and he's been double duty type of deal, you know. But I think the biggest area whenever there's turnover like that, where guys get promoted and get other jobs, is in recruiting, you know. I think the staff and the team, by the time you get to a bowl game, you know order, you know, so guys pick it up. Even players, senior players, they see it and they, you know, they've stepped up and they've had a leadership voice, you know, in defensive meetings and stuff like that. So, but in recruiting, it's always the toughest part.
Over here on your right.
Coley Harvey again from Orlando Sentinel. Kind of speaking of recruiting, one guy that you guys had a week to recruit was Kevin Hapley, and we haven't had a chance to really talk to you too much about his recruitment and bringing him in. Just kind of what was that experience like, having such a tight window to bring a guy on as a transfer, and then what he's done this season for you guys?
Right. You know, I don't know if it was really a recruiting deal. You know what I mean? And that's why whenever you know, obviously the first time around, you know, he picked Penn State over us, and, you know, that's where his heart was then. But, you know, there was something about us in the process that you know, we stuck out, you know. But it was pretty fast, you know. When they released them, there was contact. He made contact with us, and then, of course, we remembered, you know, him as a player, and he came on an official immediately, and he made his decision as soon as he got on campus. But it was pretty quick. Good kid. I know you guys spoke with him. I read some of those articles. He's smart, tough, you know. Good mix in our room. Good mix on our offense. You know, those guys are all travel together up north. You know, Sean McGuire, you know, Kevin and Josue. So, you know, they bring a lot to the table, you know.
We'll go right down here in the front on your right.
Coach, Ira Schofel again, Tallahassee Democrat. Not everybody on this team was here for some of the darker days a few years ago at Florida State. Could you just talk about watching these guys go from where they were when you got here as an assistant to playing in an Orange Bowl, and what it would mean to cap off the season with a win?
Right. Yeah, you know, these guys that came in here during you know, as freshmen, you know, there was a lot of transition, you know, a lot of things taking place, you know, and it's like I said, it's great having this job because you see a finished product. You see a guy, you know, change, you know, an immature kid or just, you know, shy to a guy who's going to talk in you know, next door. You know, I'm dying to go over there and see Rashad talk, you know what I mean? He's quiet, so, but he's a sophomore, and he'll be different in 2 years. You know, he'll be a different guy, and he'll have the experiences from seasons and instances on the team and stuff like that that'll make him different. But like EJ, I'm proud, you know? I see EJ, and it's kind of, you get a good feeling inside, you know, because you saw him develop in this process. You saw him go in games, and it's, hey, man, we need this win, you know, and I got you, coach, you know, one of those deals. And you saw it early in the process where, you don't know if it was really, you're like, I hope he has us. You know what I mean? To now you feel, you know it. You know he'll lay it on the line, So, yeah, these guys, these seniors, Rodney Smith, these guys, very proud of them, very proud.
Over to your left.
Hey, Coach. Coming into this game, you're going up against Northern Illinois defense. What's your motivation kind of just going up against them? You get in the Orange Bowl kind of expecting to go up against kind of a big powerhouse school, and then it's Northern Illinois' defense. So just kind of what's your motivation going up against them?
You're playing in a BCS, bowl game. This is the first time we've been here as together, as a team in a long time. It's a great setting, a great environment. You're going against a team who, we get to watch them. The fans don't, and, no one watches them every day on film, and we get to watch them. And as competitors, you notice, hey, that defensive end, that guy's pretty good. You know what I mean? How can I win on this block? Or, you know what, that corner to the field, man, he's savvy. I can't fall asleep and lay one out there and get a pick. You know what I mean? So you're watching them on film, and you notice they're well coached and they play hard. And as players, the players, they're not, they're not looking at their helmets. They're looking at how plays are going to be successful versus what they do. You know what I mean? So they don't care about the uniforms or anything like that. They're watching how good they are because they got here. So I think our guys realize that, and our guys, there's a lot of respect towards what they've done this year, and I don't think a motivation at all is going to be an issue,
I'll go back over on your right.
James, I'm wondering if you can talk about this game through the prism of the development of this program under Jimbo. I believe this is your first BCS game as a group of coaches, and I don't think Florida State's been to one since '05, if memory serves me right. Talk about this as a springboard to Florida State eventually launching itself back into that top elite tier in college football.
Right. That was a goal. The goal was to win our conference, and to get to the BCS game, to get to this Orange Bowl. That's where our, it starts off with your conference championship. And when we got here as a staff the first year, we played for ACC championship against Virginia Tech, and we lost that game. And we knew what it was like to go to that game. We didn't know what it was like to win that game, as a staff, as players. So this year, I thought, getting there, winning that game, now we know what it tastes like. Now we know what it's like to get into this, big game, BCS Orange Bowl. So yeah, it's definitely big time step up from where we were in the past. So and you see our players grow. They know now how to win. And win not just critical games, conference games, and then conference championship games. The Orange Bowl is going to be it's going to be a great game Tuesday night. Yeah.
Any other questions for Coach? All right, we appreciate your time. Coming up at 9 o'clock, we will have Northern Illinois defensive coordinator Jay Neiman joining us here at the press conference room.